Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTracker.com, and today we're going to break down our new Rage Cycles Fender Eliminator install on our 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400 STG project bike. Okay, New Rage is a company that we just brought on just a few months ago, and we've had a lot of success with it. We've sold a lot of their Fender Eliminators, a lot of their stuff. The stuff looks great, fits great, with a very fresh design. You can see here on the Ninja 400 what they came up with. This is a little less tucked than some of the other models, and I think that's good the way they did that, because this is more of a new rider style bike. The LED turn signals are really cutting edge in my opinion, okay? This kit ships with a dual load equalizer. We're going to show you how to install that, because when you first put it on, the flash rate's not going to be correct on the Ninja 400. With the stock flasher, you put that load equalizer on there. It's a really simple install. I'll show you how to do it pretty soon. And it slows it down, makes it look perfect. LED plate light. And you can see the way they fabricated this, it literally just kind of tucks up and bolts over the little access port for the turn signal and license plate light harnesses, right? Looks very cool. You'll see throughout the video, we had just a little challenge to sort with some fasteners, but the end result is great. If this is something you're into, you want to see what it takes to install it on your Ninja 400, just stay tuned. We're going to show you every single step. Okay, we're going to begin this install by removing the stock rear fender. You can see this thing is huge and exceptionally ugly. Take your passenger seat off. To do that, insert the key right here. Turn it clockwise, lift up, pull forward. This comes right off. This tray, you can release this by pushing inward on that, right? It's going to lift it up. Realistically, you could do the project with it just in the upright position. To gain a little more access, I'm going to go ahead and pull the cotter pins out of the hinges so I can slide it out of there. It's just going to give us more room, make it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. Okay, once you've done that, let's go ahead and expose the wiring for the turn signals and that license plate light. Depending on the kit you're installing and whether or not it offers a license plate light, you may or may not reuse all of the stock harnesses. Slide this protective boot back to expose the connectors. They are a little tight, okay? They definitely are a little to the tight side here. Push down on the release tang. Just give you a close look at that right there. Is what you want to push down on, okay? Use this T-handle to point at right here. You push down on that. That's going to allow you to release the connector. And the next one, push down that release, like so. You should not have to pull very hard after you've depressed the release, okay? If you have to pull really hard, that means it's not disengaged and you're in danger of damaging the wires, and you don't want to do that. You can see that we have two different style connectors here. This one, in order to release it, you need to push down essentially right here, and that will release it from the other side of the connector. At this point, you can take each of these three harnesses and slide them through the tail. There's a hole right there, slides right through. From here, we're going to grab our 5mm T-handle. We've got 4 fasteners to remove. Boy, once again, I got to give it to Kawasaki on that. This was really well engineered, and certainly easy to take apart and work on, which is great because this bike is going to be really popular with not only, you know, seasoned riders, but certainly new riders. It's a great way to get you introduced to the sport and to a big part of it, which is wrenching on your own machine. There you have it. There is that stock rear fender. And notice this, there's a metal brace on the inside here, plastic shroud. And then of course we've got, you know, our standard plastic / rubber turn signals. This thing is huge and it's actually kind of heavy, so installing a fender eliminator on this bike, you're going to shave some weight back here in the tail section. Okay, now before we take this and try to bolt it on the bike, there is a little assembly required here. When you receive this, this is probably going to be cable tied together. I want you to cut that cable tie and pull this bracket off. It's going to go back on the same way once we've installed the license plate holder and light to the main mounting bracket. You see there's 2 holes right here that we need to gain access to by removing this. The hardware kit that comes with it has 2 different length bolts. We have 4 at this length and we have 2 at the shorter length. The 2 shorter ones are going to be used right here to bolt the license plate bracket onto the main mounting bracket that also has the turn signals. Those are 4mm internal hex fasteners. Drop them through like that. Let's go ahead and grab this bracket. It will install like this, okay? Hold on to the bolts, turn it over. New rage is supplied. Locking nuts, nylock locking nuts. Go ahead and run those down, just finger tight. Right there, there's no need to put thread locker on these because the nut itself has a nylon insert at the very end. It's going to hold it in place once you tighten it down. Get that installed, and you can see that we do have some movement here. So when you tighten these up, you want to make sure that you're not just tightening them randomly. You want to kind of line this thing up so it's going to look good when you get it on the bike. Grab my T-handle here to hold that. How I'm going to accomplish that is I'm going to run these down until it's just putting a little bit of pressure on the bracket so it doesn't slide quite as easy. And I'll use that to kind of help hold it while I'm lining it up. And then we'll torque it. Go over to the other side. Like so. Okay, now you can clearly see this thing's definitely a little crooked on there. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to kind of manipulate it until we find a nice, solid mounting point, okay, where it's nice and even on each side. Right there actually looks pretty darn good. You can see what I'm trying to do is look at the gap right back here, and the gap on either side of the nut. Pretty happy with that. Then go ahead and torque each of the fasteners down to hold it in place. Okay, now once you've got that all dialed in, let's go ahead and take and grab a hold of that license plate light harness. I want you to pull it up here. Collect all 3 of these together. We're going to drop the bracket over top all the harnesses, like so. Feed them through. And put that right there, okay? Okay, now we'll take it over to the bike. You see I'm just kind of holding the bracket in place. There's a hole right here in the undertail. That same hole that the factory harnesses went through. We're going to go ahead and push all the new rage connectors and harness through that same hole and get it up inside the undertail. Okay, so we're preparing to bolt this to the bike, and we ran into a little snag, and I want to show you what it is right now. It's with the mounting hardware. If you look at this bracket here, you can see when I push that bolt through, that fastener, see how the washer, the actual head of the fastener itself, has that washer built in. With the angle of the bracket and how long that is, I just can't get that to go in there and seat properly. Okay, it's going to be at kind of an angle, which makes it just a little trickier to install. Okay, so let's cover possible options. And I'm going to call the guys over at New Rage and just kind of let them know what I noticed when I was doing the install, and perhaps this is something they'll want to react to. Let's go ahead and get it up into position like so. Get your bracket in between, grab your fastener, and we'll try and get this in there and get it started. Got to pass through both brackets. See, now at that angle, it makes it really kind of tough because I can't get the right angle on that bolt to go through there. Okay, so a couple of things we can do. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start one of the fasteners in the back to hold this thing and support it that I know I can get to pass through. I'm going to thread on one of the nuts. I'm not going to torque this at all, just kind of thread it on. I'm just going to let it chill out like that for a second. Okay. Possible solutions. One solution could be take the fastener over to like a bench grinder. I use a cutoff wheel and grind a flat surface onto the head. Then slide it up in. It's going to help manage that tolerance that we have there. Okay, you can see how I was able to pass that right through. Okay, and that's going to give you a good, clean, finished result. Not everybody has access to, a bench grinder or cutoff wheel. Another idea that I had was to just take and thread a cable tie through there, and this should look pretty clean too. Remember, we have two other fasteners that are going to be in place, so it's really, if you decided to go cable tie route here, it's really not going to be a problem. You're not going to worry about it falling off or anything because you've got the other two to rely on, and plus cable ties, if you've got a quality one, it's going to hold up pretty well. This would only be applicable if you note at time of installation you're having, that same clearance issue that I showed you. I'm going to call the guys over there after and just kind of give them a quick heads up. And I'm sure that they'll want to take just a quick look at it. That is actually probably a pretty dang good idea right there. Now we'll take the other fastener in the back, pop it through. Hang on one second here. I'm actually going to add a little bit of thread locker to the nut. Like so. And we will do that to the other side as well before we torque it. Same thing over here. Just want to do that to make sure that this doesn't vibrate loose. And honestly, I'd use the thread locker even if we had all four fasteners going in there. Okay. Now you can go ahead and torque the bolts. If you're going to use the other fasteners and use that grind down method to get them to seat in there, okay, you'd want to run those up through there now and put the nuts on with a little bit of thread locker, or if by the time this has all been sorted out and they have a different size fastener or made a little adjustment to the bracket, okay, get your bolts up through there, put the nuts on, a little bit of thread locker, and torque everything down. Okay, you'll see now that I've got all four fasteners in there. Okay, I did go ahead and use the bolts that I had modified. I'll show you what that looks like when we're done. Go ahead and everything's torqued up. Now we're ready to focus on the turn signal wiring and the license plate bracket light wiring. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the key on. And the license plate light connector, that's simple. We have our two turn signals here. We need to determine which side is which. Let's go ahead and plug them both in to start. We might get lucky right out of the gate. They use OE connectors on the new Rage stuff, which is pretty cool. Okay, well, you know what? I like it. Okay, you just saw the flash rate is faster than stock. We want to slow that down. New Rage has included their dual load equalizer with this kit. To wire this in, the instructions are right here. Red wire goes to a good ground. Blue wire goes to either positive turn signal. Yellow wire goes to the other positive turn signal. Okay, so this is pretty simple stuff. They've included Scotch locks to get this done, and we're going to use what they supplied for this installation. Here it is, and you can see there's quite a bit of excess harness on this. Feel free to trim this to get the cleanest possible install back here. We don't really need all that extra wiring. So my first step is going to be I've unplugged just one of the signals. And what I want to do is I want to slide the protective covering for the wiring back. The positive wire is the red wire on the new Rage harness. Okay, so we're going to make all of our connections right here. We'll do one at a time. Let's get this up in the bike, and let's kind of look at this and like try and determine where are we going to put this. You know, realistically, I'm just going to wire it right into the harness and kind of secure it right to the harness when we're done. So I feel like a length of about right here. I'm going to cut them all right here. Okay, we'll start off with the yellow wire. Here is our Scotch lock. These are really easy to use, pretty basic, right, connector style here. I'm going to go ahead and grab that harness. I'm going to slide it over like so. Okay, feel that clip right in there. Then, from the open end, we'll slide in until it bottoms out the yellow wire that we want to connect. You then fold over the top and compress this. And what this does is it's going to squeeze down, make a little imperfection in the insulation of the wire, and then the wires will be connected via the metal bridge you see in between, like so. You can see I used a pair of pliers to further compress that. Go ahead and clip the lock over. Make sure everything feels good, which it does. We're going to clean this all up once we're done. Okay, now the red wire needs to be attached to a known good ground. And we're just going to go ahead and use the ground wire right here from the same turn signal. Grab another Scotch lock, slide the wire through, like so. Find the open end. Slip that through till it bottoms out. You can compress that a little bit, grab your pliers. Give a good squeeze. Test it. Okay, that all feels good. Come on down, plug this back in. Disconnect the other. And here all we need to do is connect just the positive wire. Okay. Same gig with a harness protector, slide that down. Spread it apart a bit, Scotch lock. Get that to jump in there. Find the open side. Get that through. Lock it in place. Okay, now we're going to plug it in and test our flash ring. Okay, and you can see clearly that is a lot more desirable, okay? Some people are cool with the faster rate. If you're cool, leave it alone. We really prefer this. This kit comes with this included, so installing this is really the right way to go. Now we're going to take a second and tidy this up. All right, let's go ahead and grab that license plate light harness. Get that connector plugged in. Really dig all the OE connectors they use. It's pretty sweet. All right, that's plugged in. Key up again. Make sure it's lit. We're good. Okay, now let's go ahead and make sense of all this wiring back here. Okay. Gotta push this in through that rubber grommet there, like so. Goal should always be to have a nice professional finished product. Okay, you don't want to have it on there all cattywampus all over the place, and they want to make it look like you knew what you were doing, even if you didn't. We do have a couple of cable ties that came with the kit. We're going to use those as well. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there. Cable ties they threw in the kit, and definitely want to make sure we have this load equalizer protected. See how I slid that down in that rubber boot right there? It's a nice place for that. Feed the harness for that down in there. And let's grab the cable tie and just tidy this up the rest of the way. Once you get that all secured, just trim the ends off to finish it up. Okay, there you have it. It's installed. And like you saw in this video, sometimes when you're doing these mods to a bike, you know what? You run into little challenges just like that. I've done this a long time, and I got to tell you that has happened a million times. At the end of the day, I still really like the finished product. It looks good when it's on the bike. Minor tickle to those bolts. Like I said, I'm going to call the guys over there and see if they can't look into that and just sort that out to make it a little bit easier. But realistically, I think the end result is worth it. They really have this thing tucked up in there. Super sweet. The LEDs look great. We'll update the video, the text in the video in the comments section once this is sorted. But remember, you can use either of the methods that I proposed to sort this out if you're doing the mod yourself already and you have a fastener kit that is like that. Also, if you had bolts that were smaller, the head was smaller and would allow to pass through without any restriction, you could just do that too, okay? Really not a big deal. And that's just part of the hobby, man. Just solving the little challenges, jumping the hurdles that are in front of you when you want to get something done on your bike. This is the new Rage Fender Eliminator install on our 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400 project bike. I'm Brian Van, sportbiketracker.com.